And in first place, the gold medalist and Australian champion with a time of 2:04.64 from Canberra Club, Hayley Baker.
My first experience with the sample collection process was a urine test. I was 17 and I'd just finished competing in an event at the Youth Olympic Festival in Sydney. I had to catch my flight home in just a few hours, so it was quite stressful, but we managed to get through the whole process in time and I still had a few minutes to spare to make it to the airport. Since then, I've been tested around 40 times during my swimming career, so I know the process inside out. Let's find out more about it. The doping control process, or sample collection, involves an athlete providing a urine sample, a blood sample, or both. These are chosen on a case-by-case basis by Sport Integrity Australia as they test for different things. The athlete doesn't get to choose which sample they will provide. There are two people that an athlete will see during the sample collection process. The Doping Control Officer, or DCO, whose job it is to manage and organise the sample collection session, and a chaperone, who will notify, accompany and witness the athlete as they provide their sample. In some instances, the DCO may also act as the chaperone. The DCO and the chaperone ensure that the doping control process strictly follows the relevant procedures and that all athletes are treated fairly. All of the DCOs and chaperones that I've met have been super friendly, so don't be afraid to ask them any questions that you might have. Let's take a look at the process step by step. Step 1, athlete selection. Athletes can be selected at any time, anywhere for sample collection. Step 2, notification. A DCO or chaperone notifies the athlete that they've been selected for testing. The athlete will be asked to provide photo ID and will then need to stay in sight of the chaperone or the DCO until the sample collection process is complete. So that means wherever you go, they go. Step 3, reporting to doping control. After the athlete has been notified, they will need to report to the doping control station immediately, unless they have requested a delay. Step 4, selecting the collection vessel. The athlete will be asked to choose from sealed collection beakers. There should be at least 3 to choose from. The athlete will need to make sure that the beaker is sealed and hasn't been tampered with. Don't be afraid to take your time with this step. I always like to squeeze the bag to make sure that no air could get out. Once the athlete has chosen their beaker, they will be the only person to handle it until the end of the sample collection procedure. Step 5, providing the sample. Let's look at both blood and urine samples. Let's start with urine. The athlete needs to provide the sample in front of a DCO or chaperone so that they can witness the sample leaving the body directly. Only a DCO or chaperone of the same sex is allowed to witness sample provision. Athletes need to remove any clothing from the knees all the way up to the torso. So this can mean rolling up the sleeves to the elbow, pulling up the shirt to the chest, and pulling the pants down to the knee. If the athlete's wearing a full bodysuit, like I had to when I was swimming, they'll need to pull that all the way down. The reason for this is because in the past, some athletes have tried to cheat by substituting their urine sample with another substance. So the DCO or the chaperone needs to be sure that it's your urine that's coming out of your body and into the beaker. This can seem pretty daunting at first, but in my experience, the DCOs and the chaperones have been super professional and it's usually over pretty quickly. If a sample less than the required 90 mils is provided, the athlete will need to seal the sample, and when they're ready to provide another sample, select another collection beaker. If you're an athlete with a disability, you can request a modification to the sample collection process. The DCO just needs to approve it first. Sport Integrity Australia can offer you assistance with the sample collection process, or you can bring a representative with you. If you use a leg bag, you'll need to drain it before providing your sample. If possible, you should use a clean, sterile catheter to provide your sample. If you choose not to use a clean catheter, you do so at your own risk. The sample collection process is the same for athletes under 18. They're encouraged to have a representative with them, like a coach or a parent, but they don't have to. I was 17 for my first test, so I brought my team manager with me. But don't worry, the representative won't witness you giving the sample. They watch the chaperone or the DCO watching you provide your sample, so it's kind of like a big triangle. So you can have that representative with you to help you feel more comfortable. If the athlete chooses not to have a representative, a DCO or a chaperone will need to stand in place of the representative. This is a requirement for athletes under 18 years. Now let's take a look at blood. The athlete will select from sealed collection tubes. Just like with the urine beaker, there should be a minimum of 3, and they'll need to make sure that everything is sealed and hasn't been tampered with. Unlike the urine beaker, the nurse who draws blood will also need to handle the tubes. Before the sample is taken, the athlete may need to sit for 10 minutes or more, depending on the kind of test, before the blood is drawn. And then the test is just like a regular blood test from the arm. Step 6, Selection of the sample collection kit. Once the athlete has provided their sample, they will need to choose a sealed collection kit. Just like the urine beaker and the blood tubes, there should be at least 3 kits to choose from. And the same applies. You need to make sure that everything's sealed and hasn't been tampered with. The DCO will talk the athlete through opening the kit and making sure that all the numbers on the bottles inside the kit match. I like to read them out loud to myself to make sure that I'm 100% sure that they all match. If the numbers don't match, reject the kit and select another one. Step 7, splitting and sealing the sample. For urine, the DCO will instruct the athlete how much urine to pour from the beaker into each of the A and B labelled bottles. The DCO will then ask the athlete to make sure that the bottles are sealed and will also check the bottles themselves. For blood samples, the athlete will be instructed to secure the tubes into the tamper-proof kit. Step 8, measuring the specific gravity. The DCO will need to measure the specific gravity of your sample. This means finding out how dilute or concentrated the sample is. You need to be careful here because if your sample is too dilute, you'll need to keep providing samples until it's the correct specific gravity. So you might think it's a good idea to drink lots of water to help you pass a sample and get you in and out of doping control really quickly, but you need to make sure you don't drink too much that your urine is too dilute. So just make sure that you're not overhydrating and only take little sips, and that'll help you get in and out nice and quick. Step 9, final paperwork. We're almost there. The DCO will ask the athlete about any medications, supplements, or any other substances that they've taken in the last 7 days, and these will be noted down on the doping control form. I like to keep a note on my phone with all of my regular medications in there, and I pop in anything else that I've taken during the week, so that if I am tested, I have all of them ready to go and I don't have to try and remember them at the last minute. The athlete can also note any comments about the doping control session on the form. The athlete will then check that all the information on the doping control form is correct and they will sign it. The DCO then gives the athlete a copy of the form to keep. I like to keep mine all in one folder, so if I need to refer back to them, I know exactly where they are. Step 10, transporting and securing the sample. Once all the final paperwork is done, your sample is sent to the lab for analysis. The DCO will also send a copy of the doping control form to the lab, but it doesn't have any of your personal information on it, just the numbers on the bottles and the kits. So your sample remains completely anonymous. Samples can be stored in the lab for up to 10 years. You'll only hear back from Sport Integrity Australia if something is found in your sample. So, no news is good news.